I'm Clive Rossfield, brother and shield of Joshua, and you're watching Primalliquid.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Primalliquid and welcome to my guide for Final Fantasy XVI. In this video, I'm going to be going over the best 6 Eikon abilities in the game. Now, slight spoiler warning, okay? This video will show the Eikon menu and the ability menu, which does mean you are going to see the order in which Eikons are unlocked. If you do not want to spoil yourself, leave the video right now. You've had your warning. If you get spoiled, it's your own fault at this point. Now, let's look at the actual abilities, shall we? So first of all, when it comes to the Eikons, we naturally have Phoenix, Garuda, Ramu, Titan, Bahamut, Shiva, and Odin. And then, of course, we also have Ifrit as well. Now, when it comes to the absolute best abilities, I'm not going to go over every single ability in the game because that's going to be kind of redundant, and then this video would be way longer than it needs to be. So we're going to go over and just look at the actual abilities themselves, and I'll also explain on why we are using these. So first thing is first, Flames of Rebirth. This is Phoenix's ultimate skill. It is available from pretty much the very start of the game. It does cost a huge amount of ability points, but is exceptionally worth it. This is a massive AoE attack in front of you, behind you, to the sides, and it also deals insanely high damage. Now, if an enemy does not have a stagger bar, this will nearly kill everything around you when it is level 1. If the skill is level 2, this will kill 99% of enemies without a stagger bar in one use. At level 3, anything without a stagger bar is guaranteed to die, basically. This is by far the best ability in the game for when it comes to dealing with large amounts of enemies, for farming and stuff like that, especially if you pair it with the accessory, which reduces the cooldown by 12 seconds. Now, it is an ultimate ability, so the cooldown is quite long, so I do strongly suggest using that accessory. Next up, we have Heatwave. This is another Phoenix ability. This creates a barrier of flame just in front of Clive, and it also launches multiple projectiles of fire slashes in front of him. At level 1, it will do just 2 slashes. At level 2, it does 4 slashes. And that is what you want. This is a very potent ability. It does good damage, it does good stagger damage, and I know the stars at the top can make it look a little bit disappointing. However, this is a skill that you will be using pretty much from the start of the game all the way through, as it is incredibly versatile. Definitely one of the best skills in the game, hands down, no matter what. Then let's look at a third fire skill. Yes, you can equip more than one skill, more than 2 skills from Eikons. All you have to do is master them. Once a skill is mastered, you can then equip that skill on any Eikon slot. So for the third fire ability, this is Ignition. This is a skill that comes from Ifrit. You unlock Ifrit's skills once you actually unlock the limit gauge. Ignition is essentially a charge attack that will continuously deal damage while you are charging the enemy. So every single bit of time that you are charging through, it is dealing massive damage. And then at the end, it also has a sword slash as well for an extra hit. This is one of the hardest hitting attacks in the game. Each individual hit itself is not all that impressive, dealing only around 300 points of damage for me. However, the sheer amount of hits it does results in this skill doing nearly 10,000 damage on its own. Not only that, it drags enemies with you. This means it is an exceptionally good ability at grouping enemies up as well. Simply activate this and then zigzag for a bunch of enemies to pick them all up, and then the slash will also hit them all at the end. Once this is fully mastered, chances are if an enemy does not have a stagger gauge, this will effectively one-shot them or very nearly one-shot them. Definitely one of the best skills in the game. Then we have Judgment Bolt. So this is a skill from Ramuh, and it is also his ultimate ability. Honestly, the only thing I can say about this is it is by far and also bar none the strongest attack in the game. Okay, at level 1 you will do 1 lightning bolt. So you see in the picture on the side there, when Clive throws the spear up, it will do the first shock of lightning at level 1. That will deal about 10,000 damage just on its own. Once you get to level 2, then Clive will also summon a second bolt down, dealing basically double damage. Now, not only is the actual damage incredibly strong with this attack, dealing a massive 20,000 at level 2 and level 3, the stagger damage is also nothing to laugh about. Pretty much any enemy in the game, including some bosses, when you use this skill on them, that is pretty much guaranteed 50% of their stagger gauge gone. In fact, it would be even more, but the game locks it. So what I mean by it locks it is if an enemy is over if an enemy is at 100% stagger gauge, then even if you do an infinite amount of stagger damage, they will not go past the middle line in that gauge. They will only go to half, and then it will stop for a split second, and then you can finally start working on the second amount. Basically, any normal enemy, this is guaranteed to get it to that 50% mark, or if you are already at that 50% mark, it will stagger them 100% of the time. It is that strong, okay? Definitely one of the most broken, well, definitely the most broken ability in the game, to be honest. Then we move on to 2 more abilities from Odin. First is Heaven's Cloud. Honestly, damage-wise, this skill is not super amazing, but it's not exactly terrible either. It's probably in the top group of skills when it comes to damage, but the main aspect of this is 1, it teleports to enemies, so you can keep on hitting a bunch of different enemies, and 2, it rapidly fills up Odin's Zansetsuken gauge, which will then allow you to use Zansetsuken level 1, 2, or 3 for ridiculous damage. Honestly, Zansetsuken is definitely in the top 3 damage related skills. So for this one, you definitely are using it to increase that level really fast. However, the damage is nothing to scoff at either, so it's definitely worthwhile using. If you are using Odin as your icon, then this skill is basically a necessity. Then we have Dancing Steel. This is Odin's ultimate ability, and it basically summons a second blade with Clive, and then he unleashes a huge amount of attacks, which also rapidly fills the Zansetsuken gauge up. Obviously, We've already gone over what filling that gauge up does. However, one of the best things about Dancing Steel is its damage is freaking insane as well. Now, much like with the Heaven's Cloud, if you are using Odin, then make sure you are using Dancing Steel as well. The increase to Zansetsuken is just bar none incredibly amazing, but then it does also have incredibly good damage as well. Now, in terms of why we use these 6 abilities over everything else, firstly, we need to look at what other abilities the icons have. So Garudas are, in my opinion, very weak. They fall off tremendously late game. They're okay for dealing stagger damage, but in terms of actual damage, they're honestly really pointless. And considering we stagger everything in basically one hit with Judgment Bolt anyway, we can safely assume that Garuda is just not going to make the cut. Then we have Thunderstorm with Ramu. The charge up time for this is just too slow, and the damage is not worth the actual time it takes. We have Blind Justice, which is Ramu's base equip skill. It's terrible. Then we have Lightning Rod. This is a skill that's actually not too bad if you are fighting a big boss. Basically, anytime you hit that little charged up icon or the enemy hits it, they will take damage. It creates a little electrical field around it, dealing damage. But for little enemies, a few hits on them and they are already out of range, making it completely redundant in most situations. Then we also have Pile Drive. This is a nice skill early on, but does fall behind the 6 skills that we have chosen. As for Titan, honestly, the only really one worth using is Wind Up, which does insanely good damage when charged correctly. But again, because we have Odin, that has unfortunately come off. Now, as for Bahamut, unfortunately, Bahamut falls into a niche category. While the skills might seem like they could be worthwhile, such as Impulse or Wings of Light for Mega Flare, the simple fact of the matter is their damage and stagger damage is too low for the time it takes to use them. And so the actual damage per second is really not that good. One of the niche things it does, though, is Satellite. Anytime you use magic with Satellite up, the little orb will also attack with you, dealing extra damage. But again, it falls behind and is kind of a wasted slot. For Shiva, the only one worth talking about is Mesmerize, which basically draws all enemies towards you and deals a little bit of damage. However, we have Ignition for that, which we use to group up enemies, and the damage it deals is astronomically high. So unfortunately, it is also outclassed. And we've already mentioned about Odin's abilities. We are using these abilities basically just for the fact of charging Arm of Darkness for Zansetsuken. But though, everybody, there we have it. That is my opinion on the best 6 Eikon abilities to use in Final Fantasy XVI. However, just be warned, these are the best abilities that work best for me. If you have a very different playstyle to me, then you might find other abilities better suit you. This is an action game after all, so what works for me might not necessarily work for you. What I have gone with here is simply in terms of a damage per second ratio. I have gone with what deals the most damage the quickest. So it's not all about the highest numbers if it is slow, and it's not about low numbers even if it is incredibly fast. It is about the most efficiency when it comes to damage. But again, some people might like to take things a little bit slower, and that is perfectly fine. If these skills do not work for you, then feel free to change them to something that does. But though, everybody, that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I really hope it has helped. If it has, then please be sure to smash that like button, and of course drop a comment down below, as it really helps the channel out tremendously. And of course, if you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more content. I have tons of 16 content coming for you guys that you absolutely are not going to want to miss. As always though, everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.